It's the moment you didn't know you're waiting for.
He is Carter.
He's Chad.
And this is the Irish 365 podcast.
Chad, this is Lou Holtz. That's head coach of Notre Dame for 11 years. Greatest experience of my life. They're starting a Notre Dame podcast this summer. I have a podcast as well, but it's not about Notre Dame football, although I wish there were. But congratulations on your success. And it would be nice if I could be on your podcast, but my schedule is so hectic. But anything that has to do with Notre Dame, I'm all for it. God bless you. Go Irish.
Welcome into the Irish 365 podcast. We've got college football quarterfinal, Georgia, episode 34 preview.
Awesome.
Look at that mouthful.
That is a mouthful, and I am so happy to be here for it.
Glad we get to say it all, though, right?
Exactly. So, Jordan, you're with us. Are you excited for Georgia?
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a while since the last game.
Yeah. So that's definitely the interesting part this time of year. Like, we're playing on a Wednesday? Wednesday, Thursday? I don't remember what the first is, but just like the schedule's so wonky. Like, you don't play for a couple of weeks. You have 10 days off. I mean, we played a Friday night last, 11 days off. It's just so hard getting used to when do you play. It's just throws you off because you're so used to Saturday 2:30, Saturday 2:30, Saturday 2:30.
And then there was a Friday game.
Yep.
And it was
right.
And it was awesome. Did you get a chance to watch the Friday game, Jordan?
I did. Overall, I was happy with how the defense played. The game didn't go as I was expecting. I kind of thought IU would put up more of a fight.
Yeah.
But I will say that I love Maddie's comments last week with the IU hate. I completely agree. I hate those dusty banners that they talk about in basketball. So I was cheering while she was talking about the team. So
you would have, it was a life-changing moment for me during that game when Christy turned around and started trashing the IU banners to the IU graduates. I'm like, oh my gosh. I've been in love with this woman for 25 years. I think I love her more.
Yeah, overall, it was, Notre Dame got the win. I was annoyed that they gave up those late touchdowns. But, they kind of did exactly what you guys said. So I wanted to give you guys some props. With those, they started hitting those back shoulder throws. And you saw that that's what they wanted to do. But Notre Dame just did a great job of getting them out of rhythm, and they just couldn't get into rhythm.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I went back and watched highlights, and just to make sure what I saw in person was kind of like, did I really feel that way afterwards? And we did a great job of taking away the back shoulder throw. IU had really made some hay and some quick slants, and we took that away ultimately pretty early. And it was like we just shut them down. And I didn't realize this in real time, but Notre Dame went pretty vanilla the entire second half in offense and defense. Like, we weren't trying to – we had the lead. We weren't trying to do anything. We're just trying to get out of that game healthy. And so if that would have been the revenge game that we played against Purdue, I think we could have put up 60.
Yeah.
As I went back and watched, I'm like, oh, my goodness. I was so excited at the time, screaming, cheering, with my fellow Indy fandom that, I did. Yeah, so I was excited. It was a great game.
Yeah.
And it set us up well for now. Yep. A Sugar Bowl.
Yep.
A Sugar Bowl matchup against a Georgia team that we've played 3 times.
Yep. In the Sugar Bowl once, and then a home and a home.
And,
right?
Yeah. We played them in the Sugar Bowl the first time we ever played them. They had this kid by the name of Herschel Walker.
Doesn't ring a bell, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't know whatever he went on to after college. But
he ran for office, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Politician. I think that is what he did.
Yeah, that's what he is. Politician.
But if you go back and kind of pay attention to that game, and I didn't see it in person. I've seen highlight clips of it, so it predates me and my fandom. But it sounds like statistically Notre Dame owned that game with the exception of Herschel Walker.
Yep.
And that dude he was good and couldn't be stopped.
Not that many yards in the game, right? Notre Dame defense held him, and then besides a couple runs and. Yeah.
So we owe Georgia a little bit of revenge.
And you want to get into the other 2 matchups of recent times, or?
And then we can talk about the 2 more recent ones, the one at Notre Dame and the one at Georgia.
Yeah, so in 2017 we played them the 2019 thriller, basically.
Great game.
Yeah,
great game. Yeah.
Great game. Wimbush was the quarterback, I believe. Josh Adams.
33 trucking.
I was going to say that was the big year for him. And then, we go down to Georgia in 2019 and play a 23-17 pretty close game down to the wire. I mean, Ian Book. And something I noticed from both those games is Notre Dame's running backs were Josh Adams. I forget who our running back was in 2019 off the top of my head, but it was like 60 yards was the tops.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't running. I guess it'd be Kyron Williams.
It'd have been.
Yeah.
Probably would have been Kyron.
So, I mean, just maybe Georgia's defense, physical.
Diggs might have been in there.
I think it was Kyron.
Was Kyron? Okay.
Yep. I mean, two pretty big Notre Dame, Josh Adams, Kyron Williams, both held under like 60 rushing yards. So that'll be, I think, a very interesting part for this year's game. What can Notre Dame do in the run? And it's surprising me. I look back and both Notre Dame quarterbacks are over like 225 yards passing in both those games.
Yeah.
So definitely Georgia was selling out the run and knew that, and I expect a very similar thing on this one.
So the question is this year's Georgia team better than those Georgia teams?
Yeah.
Because I think it's without a question this year's Notre Dame team is better than those Notre Dame teams.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that makes the whole thing interesting. And here's one thing I haven't seen. I don't know, Jordan, maybe you've seen it more because I haven't been down in the South for work recently. And the guys I have talked to on the phone are Alabama and Tennessee fans, and the one guy's Notre Dame fan. So I'm not getting a Georgia perspective, SEC perspective heavy because they're not hitting me with it. But I am not seeing on social a ton of like trash talk from the Georgia fan base. Now, part of it could be the classiness of the Georgia fan base.
Yeah.
But the other part of it could be like I'm not hearing other SEC teams. So normally the SEC just gets chirpy, and maybe it's after the Tennessee loss to Ohio State.
I don't know, just because it felt like on the Indiana game, there was just every scroll on your feed was either Notre Dame or IU person going back and forth, like especially around here. It's just like, but yeah, I'm with you. I haven't seen a bunch of SEC trash talk. I don't know if just because leading up to the game, maybe we'll start seeing it as the week goes on. But yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So Jordan, you seen any of that in social? Hear any of that, or I know you got.
Well, yeah. So I kind of went down as I was trying to learn a little bit about Georgia. I've watched them play a couple games, and a couple of them we've talked about. While the games have been going on, that Georgia Tech game.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the SEC championship, and I watched the Alabama game where it was kind of a tale of two halves. But I found a YouTube guy that was talking about it, and what I was been amazed is the Georgia fans. They're talking themselves into the backup quarterback. It's like you don't know what you got, so it could be anything. It could be the best thing that we just didn't know about,
Yeah.
So I think they're cautiously optimistic, is what I'll say. And that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting.
Is he so good that Kirby Smart's an idiot and didn't play him? Like,
exactly.
Come on.
Yeah.
And like,
I don't think it's an Alabama. What year was it? 2017, 2018 when they had Jalen Hurts, Tua, and who's the I don't remember the third ball talking about, but it's just like, I don't think it's one of those situations where they have three NFL quarterbacks sitting on their or two quarterbacks sitting on their bench. Like,
right. He's been there 3 years. This guy has. So he's a third-year sophomore, so he knows the offense. And if he's been this great. Exactly, Chad. Why hasn't he played? So,
yeah, because I think Kirby Smart is a good coach. And one of the things that concerns me most about this Georgia team is the fact that Kirby Smart is on the sideline. I'm not like when I look at the Georgia team itself, the defensive front concerns me because I think that's going to be very difficult for us to run on, and it's going to test our line, who's been much better at the end of the year than they were at the beginning of the year. But at the same time, like that's a Kirby Smart defensive front. They're going to be stiff. And he's got 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It seems like a year to plan for this game.
Okay.
So, I mean, that concerns the heck out of me. But he's a good coach, and I think okay, if this backup quarterback was that good, he can't be better than your starter. He may be almost as good as. Maybe even as good as, but he can't be better. He's a different player from what I can tell too. So, and I think Notre Dame got enough film on him to understand what they can do to shut him down. And Al Golden's been around the block defensively for us, so I'm not too freaked out about that side of it. But
the thing I found interesting though is you could tell the guys around him though. I mean, I know it's SEC championship, so you can't put too much stock in this, but that Georgia offense was not doing very good until he came in. Till Gunnar Stockton came into that game, they were pretty stagnant. I couldn't tell if they went just more handing the ball off. They just went more basic for him. that was just generally their game plan against the Texas defense. But like they started averaging more yards a carry once he came in versus Carson Beck. I mean, they looked better when he came in. So, but it's also you have the SEC championship. Like, do you want to win it or not? Like, I don't want to say they're routing around their quarterback, but
well, is it one of those psychological things you talk about team psychology?
Yeah.
And when you had Carson Beck back there, was it a mentality that the other 10 guys didn't go as hard because they were relying on Beck to win it?
Yeah.
And now they got this backup quarterback in, and now they're like, I got to step up my game.
Yep.
Because you see that in sports a lot when you have a really good player on a team that becomes dominant. LeBron James picked the year.
Yeah.
4 guys standing around waiting on LeBron to score.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, if I want to watch ISO basketball, why don't we just play 1-on-1? Right.
Yeah.
So I think that may be a little bit of it. Like those guys all had to rally in that moment because they didn't want to put on the young guy, the backup quarterback's shoulders.
Yeah.
And the rest of them stood up. And I think the offensive line and I think the running back said, we'll carry the load. We're going to win this game.
Yep.
Like, where they didn't feel like they had to. So I think to change the plan a little bit, I think they went from a more of a passing attempt to more of a running attempt. And, and Etienne, he comes from a good bloodline. We know that. He's a good running back. I felt like that maybe was what I saw when I watched that SEC championship game.
Yeah.
So, Jordan, you've got a coworker who's got a daughter at Georgia? Is that right?
Yeah, my boss.
Okay.
Her daughter. And they're going to go down to the game. They're leaving. I don't know if I think they're leaving tomorrow to go down.
Yeah. No trash talk from them? No, they too classy for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. They're North Carolina fans, so their daughter just went out of school, went out of town. So
rebellious teenager, got it.
But yeah, we've definitely been talking a little bit about the game. So I think, all her daughter's known since she's been at Georgia is titles. So it's been interesting as Georgia's been really good the past 2 years. So I think that's been another funny storyline is you got kind of everyone hates Georgia because they're winning, and Notre Dame's just polarizing. People either love them or hate them. So it's really that's been a funny thing to see is just if nobody wants either team to win.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. Like the SEC people all hate Georgia because they can't beat them for whatever reason, and then Notre Dame they just hate us because we're us. So.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I know. And as I was kind of looking at some of this game, looking at what is, Georgia, kind of what we're talking about. What's their strengths, what's their weaknesses, and things like that. Because I think Georgia is probably going to want to run the ball to continue. I think they want to continue that same offense that they did in the second half when Gunner came out.
Yeah.
Like you said, establish the run. This podcast that I was kind of listening to about Georgia says expect a lot of 2 tight end sets and play action, and it's going to be a vanilla offense, and it's going to be, a defensive struggle, which I think that's kind of what we're all expecting a little bit.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I'm not expecting a barn burner 49-48. Like, which watch Wallace say that, and then it will be. But I mean, the over/under on this game is 44.5, and that tells you what you need to know. I mean,
I think the only way it goes over is overtime.
Yeah, that's how it feels, right? Like,
I mean, that's my personal opinion. Is like
I think the only besides that, like if it goes over in regulation, it's defensive scores. Like realistically, quarterback, either team makes a mistake, and it's defensive scores because both these defenses are outstanding. Like I don't think anyone's beating around the bush on that. Like both these defenses are no joke. They know what they're doing. D-lines, I mean, we've got some question, obviously, with Riley Mills officially out for the year. But I think someone will step up in that role. I mean, our linebackers are going to have play great games here. Like, it's going to be defensive juggernaut, right? I think.
Yeah, I expect, the injury front, it sounds like KVA is going to be a game-time decision.
Yeah.
I think Kingston is going to play.
Yeah, I think he'll play.
I do. And
that's with no information besides seeing his dad on Twitter.
Gut feel. I saw his mom post a picture of him and Madden that oh my gosh. So we got to meet KVA after the senior night. We stuck around after the game and got some autographs from players, and KVA was out and Caden got KVA's autograph. And I was standing next to the dude, and like I'm not tall, I'm average height at best. And obviously he was tall, but like he was huge. just like, oh my gosh. And so there was a picture just recently of a freshman that just enrolled.
Yeah.
He's an early enrollee, so he's practicing with the team. And Madden is his name. He's a Polynesian kid as well. And he's standing next to like KVA, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he may be bigger. Like he's as tall and like it's like,
and he's a year younger.
Yeah, and I heard Mike Goolsby make this comment. Like he said, this is going to be like having Jalen Smith and Manti Te'o in the same defensive back at the same time with these two guys. I'm like, that's a pretty high praise coming from a former Notre Dame like linebacker. That's pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think KVA will play. I think the loss of Mills is going to hurt us more against Georgia than any other team.
Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting to see who steps up. I know we've got some good guys in the secondary squads, guys that played. And you and I have been high on this kid since last spring.
Yeah.
Sean Savano. I think he's a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
He's kind of a nose guard, really, more to tackle. But he's got a motor.
He's big.
And he's a big kid with high motor. I don't think he'll start, but I expect him to make some plays.
Yeah.
Like, especially if this game goes the way I anticipate, being like a heavy run game.
Mm-hmm.
He'll clog up the middle. He'll, especially second half.
Yeah.
When the Georgia line's getting wore down, the Notre Dame defensive line, and we start rotating in.
Yeah.
So Sean Big Bear Sevillano, pay attention to him.
Yeah.
He wears biker shorts, and we've talked about him in the podcast before, but he's a character, but I think he's kind of reminds me of Lewis Nix a little bit. That's when I figured it out. I loved Lewis Nix because Lewis Nix was just this big body, and like Lewis Nix was like one of the few bright spots in that 2012 game against Alabama. It was like, okay, the guy was eating up a triple team. Somebody make a play.
Yeah.
And I think Sean Savano, he's a true freshman, but I think he's got kind of that personality. He's a little bit of a character off the field, but he's down to business on the field. So I look for someone like him to step up and make some plays. We know the secondary is going to go man coverage.
Yep.
And I like that. I don't see Georgia wanting to throw the ball at all.
Yeah. I mean, they will to keep us honest on the run, but
they're going to throw the ball if they think they got the opportunity.
Yeah.
But we're going to be man coverage. It's not like throwing the ball is going to get less guys in the box.
Yeah.
Where I think on the opposite side of that, Notre Dame's going to have to throw the ball enough to not. Because Georgia's going to do anything, they're going to say, Jeremiah Love, you are not beating us.
Yeah.
Like, that's the Georgia. And so Riley is going to have to make enough throws to keep Georgia from stacking the box, and that's going to open up those running lanes for both him and Price and Love.
Yeah.
But I think Georgia-wise, I don't think they're going to try and run the – I think they're going to pass very seldom. Mm-hmm. If they do anything, they'll look at what has been successful, and they'll look at what their quarterback skill set is. I think they'll try and throw maybe some quick slants across the middle. And that'll just be to keep the linebackers
from shooting up.
Yeah. Being honest.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to try and do. But then I think from the safety side, like when we locked it down on the IU, all of a sudden those quick slants, there was 2-3 guys bracketing that receiver.
Yeah.
So I think we know how to play that. And I think that's the great thing about, everybody talks about the conference. I heard that the other day on a podcast I was listening to.
Yeah.
It was a call-in show, and some fan from Ohio State was calling his Notre Dame podcast and talking about, you guys got to join a conference, and why should you? And giving all these reasons why joining a conference makes you so much better, because now every team knows you, and they know how to scheme against you, and you have to learn how to be better at doing what you do. And I'm like, but we play the SEC, we play the Big Ten, we play every conference, and we see all different kinds of flavors of offense and defense and everything in between. And it's like, I just think we're battle tested enough this year because we've been backs against the wall for the last 11 games.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing Georgia's going to throw at us offensively that we can't manage.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to remember this. We've got Al Golden back there calling our defensive plays and scheming, and he's had more than an average time. He's had more than his 6 days of preparation to get ready for this game, and he's got a guy making his first start. Like, I mean, it's just like, I'll take Al Golden. Don't get me wrong, Kirby Smart, I'm sure, has got something up his sleeve. Like, he's had even more time, and like we said, great coach. He's going to have something for Riley. Like, he's going to give him looks he hasn't seen. But it's like, come on now. We're going to give this kid, Gunnar Stockton, some looks that he didn't even know existed. So
yeah, I think Gunner's going to have some NFL looks thrown at him he's not ready for. Now, Kirby's going to do everything he can to get the kid ready.
Yeah.
But you're going to get a kid with 3 years in their system, ready to go.
Yeah.
So now it comes down to, what is the Georgia system? What can they do inside themselves that's successful? They can't bring in a whole bunch of new plays and try and do something different. They got to do something inside their program that is going to be successful against Notre Dame. So I think they're going to play somewhat predictable.
Yep.
And that's what I think makes Al Golden's job easy, because Al Golden's like, this is who I want to beat, and this is how I'm going to beat them.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, and I think it's kind of the same thing on the offensive side. We know what Georgia's defense is.
Yeah.
And we've got film from Georgia Tech. I mean, like, okay, how do you score? How do you move the ball?
I mean, yeah, look at the mobile quarterbacks, Georgia Tech and Alabama, right? Yeah.
It's like, and I think we maybe have the better of those three teams, mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is really kind of exciting for like Riley Leonard. Are we going to get the Riley Leonard? Because we've said we can win games with Riley Leonard. Is he a guy we can win games because of? And this has got to be. We need the Riley Leonard we're going to win a game because of. We got to have that guy that's going to step up and like make the plays. So, what do you think offensively? Let's knock down the offense, because defense, we know what we're getting from Georgia. What are we going to do offensively? I guess that's the.
I mean, I think this is one of those that we might have been a week ahead. Like we talked about, Riley Leonard's got to be big with his legs against IU. It's like you said, this has got to be a game where he can take over. Like Georgia, like you said earlier, Georgia's going to sell out to stop Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
Like, and it's going to be non-designed runs that we saw more earlier in the season where I think they're gonna be man coverage, and I think he's gonna throw the ball, because we saw some great throws last week. The Bo Collins, we saw one to Faison where he just ripped it, and he was moving around in the pocket. Like, we're gonna need to see a lot more of that this week. And we saw 2 of those plays last week. You're like, oh man, that was a really good throw. We're gonna need to see 5 to 6 of those. It was like that was to win this game legitimately. And we're also gonna need, like, he's got to scramble. I expect him to have a good rushing game this game, but I mean, always got to take this in consideration. Georgia's gonna hit. They're gonna hit hard every single play, and even when he's released the ball, I won't be surprised if they're taking roughing the passer like 1 to 2. They're legitimately gonna try to hit him every single play. And I'm not saying they're gonna play dirty. I'm just saying they're gonna hit him.
Yeah.
Like
they're gonna let him know they're there when they get a chance to hit him, for sure.
Every chance.
So what do you think, Jordan?
So kind of the same thing. I mean, it all depends on Riley. Last week when I was watching the IU game, like, I was dialed in trying to, stare and look at everything that was going on with the TV. And I will say Riley Leonard I don't know if this is just nitpicky, but he got lazy with the RPOs. It got very, like, you could tell when he was going to throw and when we were going to run it. It got predictable. And I was like, in order for him to be successful against Georgia, I think he needs to sell that RPO a little better, because it all depends on him. I think he's going to have to run and get out of the pocket a little bit. I also went back after the IU game and I looked, because I was like, man, we went stagnant. This game was, terrible at times on offense. We looked bad. But I went and I looked at, some of the box scores and stuff like that and the play drives, and it was really only a couple 3-and-outs. We had a 3-and-out and a 4-and-out.
Yeah.
And we just have to limit those. I feel like controlling the field position is going to be key. We don't want to give Georgia short fields.
Right.
So if anything, play it safe and get Riley settled. I feel like when he threw that pick early, it was a terrible pick. I mean, my God, that guy was just standing right in front of him. And I was like, what are you doing? But after that, he settled down and he was great.
So you're saying he needs to throw a pick early? Just kidding.
Get out of the way.
Just toss
throw
it to
a
him.
Hail Mary. It's a punt.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a fourth down and distance, throw it. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's kind of it. I think the key here for Notre Dame is going to be Riley Leonard and his play. And like you said, Carter, I think we need Riley Leonard to complete 3 to 4 passes over 20 yards.
Yeah.
Like, if he does that, I think we win this game, because that will force the number of men in the box for the Georgia defense to the minimum number they're going to have to play. They won't play man-to-man. I think they'll have to go to kind of a cover 2 type situation. And I think that'll be the key, and that'll open up the run. And I expect Jeremiah Love to get the ball in different, unique ways.
Yeah.
And I think Notre Dame's going to have some sort of special team play.
We'll have something.
Fake punt, fake field goal, something. We're going to have something that we're going to show out. And I like that we've gotten more aggressive on that. I think I saw the quote from Denbrock in his press conference this past Friday. Like he's like, Marcus Freeman is the most, like, confident and, like, risk-taking, aggressive coach I've ever coached with right now. Like he just wants to go after people. So I kind of think maybe like we talked about Riley and getting sloppy in the RPOs. That's something they're going to work on and clean up. And I think it was just Jeremiah Love scored that first touchdown, the 98-yarder, and I knew at that point like it was game over. And then you go to that next Notre Dame drive, and we talked about it like it was a 9-minute drive, like 45 minutes of real time. And I think that we just physically like imposed our will on that drive on IU. And I think everybody after that just kind of said, we're better than these guys. We're more physical. We can do what we want. Yeah. And I think we went vanilla kind of after that point, and it was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, you know, we were playing, but not aggressively. We got a couple field goals. It was like, what are we doing here? Like, we should be up. Like, literally, we left 15 points on the board between the two field goals. It could have been touchdowns. And like the touchdown we didn't, it's like the blocks. We left 15 points out there easily. And never need to give up that last 14 points to IU even. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting because I don't think this game's going to be one where I'll be shocked if we get to the end of the third quarter or into the second quarter and we feel like we're dominating physically a Georgia team that we can get sloppy. I will be shocked if Notre Dame is in that position. So I think we'll be sharper for 4 quarters, and I think we can be sharp for 4 quarters. So I think that'll be interesting. So my expectation is, like I said, I need to see that throw that he made to Fasan. I need to see like 4 of those. Yeah. Where like he's pressured, he's in the pocket, he doesn't run with his feet, he steps up and he hits him in stride, and like give us 3 to 4 of those, and I think Georgia's in trouble. Yeah. Definitely agree on that.
Well, Quinn Ewers threw for 345 in the SEC championship game. So, and I mean, we saw Bama throw on Georgia. So I think they're more susceptible to the pass than the run. It's just whether that's Notre Dame's going to focus on that, because I don't think that we shouldn't stray from what we've been doing, which is run first and then opening that up to the pass. So.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of those things that we do take those shots. Like, we got to make the plays. Like, you can't, if we're going to run the ball on it. I mean, we're not going to run for 8 yards a carry against Georgia. Like, I don't see that being the case. It's going to be 2 to 3 yards a carry. Like, that's fully expected here. Yeah. But when we take those shots, they can't be drop passes. They can't be bad balls. Like, you got to, and then the runs will open up more. So,
yeah, and I think
I can't.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I can't get frustrated while watching the game because that's my problem is I start watching these and I'm like, Denbrock, come on, what are we doing? Like, run up the middle, run around the corner, you know, 3rd and long, and then it's like that just frustrates me to no end. I'm like, scheme up something else, you know.
Yeah. That's something we gotta definitely stay out of though. Those 3rd and longs, like you said, like we can't have these penalties. You can't get nothing on 1st and 2nd down, and then it's 3rd and 10. Like, we got to be in 3rd and 4 and shorter, like every time.
And we have gotten sloppy, even with Denbrock at times. I mean, we talked about it against the IU game. Like, we had this great kick return the opening half, and then we take a delay of game. Like, come on, like
you can't do that.
Like, you didn't have a plan for this play?
Like you're out of the 50. Like, how do we not have, like, we take it? Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So, I mean, that's got to be one of those things. And I kind of wonder, it's working, but, you know, like Denbrock is on the sideline and not up in the booth, and that's where he wants to be so he can communicate. But I often wonder, like, he's relying on somebody else to, like, give him, like,
information.
Data and information. And it's like, if he was up in the booth where he could, like, be less distracted talking to people and, like, could just focus on, like, you know, the chess match, maybe those things would come a little quicker. I don't know. But, yeah, so I think that's kind of an interesting mix and all of that. But, I think it's a winnable game for the Irish. And that's what's got me nervous, because we've not beat Georgia.
Yeah, ever.
And Georgia still, I mean, Carter and I talked about this, Jordan. You're kind of in between us in this generational thing. Like, you're almost halfway, I think, in fact. In age. So you think about, like, I've never seen us beat Georgia. It's been such a long time since we've won, like, a major New Year's bowl game. Yep. And a lot of people say, hey, that win over IU, that was a top 10 win in the playoff. You know, that's
postseason,
Postseason. That's a win. It counts. And maybe it's because I don't give enough credit to IU. Because, you know, they're still.
Yeah, if you would have beat Alabama in that
first
round.
If it would have been Alabama, I'd have felt differently. It would have been a blue blood. If it would have been, you know, Ohio State. So, but then I turn around and look at it and it's like, well, if I'm going to write the script and we're going to win the national championship in Coach Freeman's year 3, and that involves us going through Georgia, Penn State, and Ohio State or Oregon, like, okay, no one can say anything to me for the next 365 days about Notre Dame being overrated. If we can make that gauntlet, right? And then it comes down to, like, do we need to win this game for this to be a successful season? And I think that's a lot of it. And, and it's just like, well, I would say it's a disappointment if we don't win this game, but I won't say it's not a successful season.
Yeah.
Because I think this is a winnable game, and I expect Georgia's offensive play scheme to be nothing more than try and run the ball.
Yeah.
And if we can hold them to 2 or less yards on average per carry, then I think we got a real shot. And I talked to one of the guys I know, it's an SEC guy, and he's like, well, the one thing you know for sure is this is pretty funny. He says, the Georgia receivers will all be healthy for the game because those guys can't catch a cold.
Yeah.
And so I guess the Georgia receivers have a lot of drops.
Yeah.
But they put up yards,
Yeah.
but they still drop a lot of balls. And so you're going to the backup quarterback. So make him beat you with his arm, take away Etienne's run, and I think that's kind of the formula for us on the defensive side. And I think it's sort of the exact same formula for Georgia. Take away the run and make Riley Leonard beat you with his arm. And again, I go, okay, hat tip Riley Leonard the way he's been playing.
Yeah.
I went back and thought about it. It was what, 3rd week or 4th week before he threw a touchdown pass? I think it was week 3.
It wasn't Purdue. It was the week after Miami of Ohio.
Yeah, it was Miami of Ohio. So it was week 4 before he actually threw a touchdown pass.
Yep.
And so you look at what he did last week and how well he was throwing the ball, and it's like, okay, he missed spring, all those kind of things. Maybe that's where it's at. But I like where Riley Leonard's at. If he plays within himself, he protects the ball, he doesn't force anything.
Yeah.
Stays in the pocket when he needs to and runs when he absolutely has to. I think he can be the difference maker, and I think he's the reason we win this game ultimately.
So not to get too off topic, but just a real quick thing. We had this comment come in from a fan. I put out something on social media asking some talking points on Georgia, what people want to know. And someone said this one, is this a game where Riley Leonard shoots up his draft stock? You always see someone this time of year that has been a mid-round, late-round pick that shoots up into the second or third round. You know what I mean? Especially in this quarterback position. What do you think? I mean, it's a lot on that. I know that just threw you off a little bit, but
I think he could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could. I think this is a game where you're going to be tested against the most NFL-type defense you're going to see.
Yep.
And if he can come out and be successful, make some passes, and run the ball enough, I think if he can do those things, then he may move himself up. He's not a first-round pick. He's not a top 10 lock, I don't think.
No.
But I look at some of the guys that were taken recently and how they haven't been all world
in college.
In college, they were great, and they haven't been all world in the NFL. And it's there's somebody that they'll take him.
Yeah.
We need another quarterback, and this guy's a winner, and let's see what we can do with him. So, yeah, I think if he has a good game,
I think a mid-round pick is where he's probably going to go. And if he has a good game, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I thought about this when thinking about this when I saw this question come in. I was like, what if the Saints took him and he's he's the new Taysom Hill?
Well, yeah, that's exactly. He needs to showcase his arm a little more.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows that he can run.
Yeah.
It's just whether he can sit in the pocket and throw the ball down the field consistently. And maybe that would be great if he did that this game. I would be surprised for sure. Yeah. And I think that means Notre Dame is going to be successful in the game if he was able to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but I mean, this game could launch him into a different mindset by NFL scouts.
Yeah.
Because, again, I hadn't seen it all year, but against IU, I saw a couple of NFL plays. The toss to Hassan down to the 1, that was an NFL play.
Yep.
So if he can play that way against Georgia, you would assume it's most likely going to be Penn State next.
Yeah.
And if he can continue to play that high level against Penn State and then finish it off.
Yep.
I could see a scenario where if he balls out against the next 3 games and we win a national championship and he leads us to that.
Yeah.
I could see him getting himself into a first-round conversation.
Yes. Second. Yeah.
Probably more realistically, he goes early second round in that scenario because he's not going to be a really bad team's first pick.
Yeah.
And if he goes to a team in that second half of the draft, they don't need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Unless, maybe someone like the Colts
trade. Yeah,
take him because like Anthony Richardson's injuries and this and that and the other, and he's a similar skill set. I don't want to say similar athleticism, but similar skill set. You can kind of build the offense around him.
Yeah.
Where you can run the same offense.
You're not going to Joe Flacco after.
Yeah, completely different. To Flacco is not a Flacco's good, but it's not the same.
Two different quarterbacks. Yeah.
So I could see maybe a mid-round team like that taking him as a backup or a backup potential, but I would say he's more likely going to go to a team that needs a quarterback. And second round kind of a thing, or we'll see. We'll see. He could play himself into it. Absolutely could. So I hope he does.
So before we get into our game picks and all that stuff, I kind of want to go through this real quick. I've got the other 3 games, and I got the spreads on them. I want to just hear your first thoughts. Who wins, and on the spread, who we got. So
all right, let's go.
Penn State, Boise State. Boise's plus 11, so Penn State's 11-point favorites as of right now. I know that one's been flexing.
All right, so what do you think, Jordan? Are we picking? We're picking money line and against the spread.
I mean, whatever you want to do. If you pick Penn State on the spread, then I was thinking it's your pick. But
I'm taking Boise in the points.
Taking plus 11.
Yes, I mean, I'm just all in on Genty, and I hate Penn State. I don't know why their style of play is just so ugly. The fact that they didn't score an offensive touchdown, they got 2 defensive touchdowns at the start of the game last week.
Yeah,
and my God, I think I could have played quarterback last week against Penn State. Yeah. So I'm Boise plus the points.
Okay. Yeah, we just do on the spread. Yep.
Yeah. See, I take Boise in the points as well. I think Boise can really win this game.
Yeah. Outright. Yeah.
You look at Boise State played Oregon.
Yep.
And they played them close, and it's well, Oregon is as good as we think they are.
Yep.
And Boise State played them that close. I think Penn State's overrated. I think they're getting the benefit of the doubt. I think a little bit of that brand, but Joe Pa hasn't been there in a long time.
Yep.
This is not that same team. So yeah, I'm with Jordan. I'm definitely Boise State. Give me 11 and Boise State. I'll take it all day long.
I was going to say, are we considering this a big game? Because I think it's a big game, so that means Penn State's not winning it. So I mean, give me Boise in the points.
that right there alone.
Going to Franklin.
Yep.
Yeah. He's a good coach, not a great coach.
Yep. So next up, we got Texas minus 13 on Arizona State. I mean I don't know enough about. I don't know enough about Arizona State. I'll be honest.
They got Scattaboo.
Yep, they're a big running back. Their quarterback's been talking his talk all week. Oh, I'm gonna show everyone I'm better than Quinn Ewers. So I mean, that's
how many points does Texas get, or Arizona State get?
13.
13.
And you got to remember, all the favorites won and covered in that first round.
Yeah. See, I think Texas wins it outright, but I don't know if they cover.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say
I think they cover.
You think they cover?
I thought Clemson was going to cover and possibly win last week.
Yeah.
And Texas just hit them in the mouth, and Clemson just couldn't recover from that. And I think, unfortunately, the same thing's going to happen with Arizona State.
Yeah.
See, I really want Texas to win that game, and I want Georgia to lose so that I can tell the SEC guys.
You want Texas to lose.
I want Texas to win, and I want Georgia to lose so I can tell the SEC guys, tell me how great the SEC is. Well, the only team in the SEC that's winning is the guys you picked up in the transfer portal last year. I want to put that in their face. These guys weren't even SEC school, but I'm with you. I'm going to say it's close, but I'm going to go with Jordan. I think Texas does cover.
Yeah. I mean, I won't be surprised if they don't, but I'll ride with you guys. Texas covers on that. minus 13. I mean, it's a lot of points. But yeah, I mean, Clemson was close, and their spread was 14, wasn't it? If I'm remembering. So, I mean, give me Texas. So we're 2 games in on that one, and we're picking both teams that played last week. I think that'll be a really interesting part before we get in this last game. Does that conference championship and bye and not playing in that long, does that hurt these teams off the bat? I mean, that's a long time to.
No, because I think you're looking at weaker conference champions in this first 2 games we talked about.
Yeah, I
don't think it's anything with the time off. I think it's weaker conference champions.
I mean, these are teams that haven't ever had this much. A bowl game. I mean, this is an extended. It just seems like a long time. But okay, last game. Ohio State, 2.5-point favorites against Oregon. First time I think the number 1 team is in the college football playoff era has not been a favorite in a game. I mean, this is going to be a barn burner. Rose Bowl, 5 o'clock on New Year's Day, right? I mean, yeah.
I'm not sold that Oregon or Ohio State as good as people think they are. But I also think, as close as that game was, the clock management issue, like Ohio State should have won the first game.
Yeah.
And give me Ohio State and the 2.5 points.
All right.
In this case. And maybe it's just because I want to beat Ohio State. So if Notre Dame can find its way past Georgia and find its way past Boise State and find its way past
Yeah. Jordan, where are you at on this one?
But man, this one's literally a coin flip for me. That's why I'm struggling with this one. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Ohio State's 2.5 point favorites, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just biased and have to go with the number one team. I would take Oregon with the points.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
I think Oregon's going to win it. But
yeah, it's one of those where I'm back and forth. I keep having this thought. You can't beat a good team. Like, it's hard to beat a good team twice. You can do it, but it's so hard to beat a good team twice. I've been like Ohio State, but Oregon is the number one team. They beat them. And I think all this talk of, Ohio State really should have won that game. Ohio State should have won that. They had back all that at the end of the game. They couldn't. I mean, it was a 1 point game. It was at Oregon. Ohio State probably went. Oregon's like, we haven't lost all year, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I think Oregon. Give me Oregon on that one. It could be Oregon loses by a point. I mean, we could see another 1 point game, but I think Oregon's gonna. I think the Ohio State fan base is on this roller coaster right now. They've felt good going into Michigan. Thought they're gonna beat them. Did it. Felt kind of bad going into this Tennessee game. Ended up blowing them out. Like, wasn't even close. Like, they dominated that game. So now they're feeling good going into Oregon, and back down we go.
Yeah, and Oregon has back against the wall, us against the world.
Yep.
We're underdogs. Like, they got
as the number one team in the country.
Got that chip on their shoulder.
As the number one team in the country.
We're being disrespected by these guys.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of reason for Oregon to rally. It won't shock me if Oregon wins.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't shock me if Oregon wins this game in a blowout.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way. I think Ohio State wins a close game.
One. But if
it's a blowout, it'll be an Oregon win.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about it. And that's so weird to say that. But, yeah, I'm with you. So
Yep. All right.
So what we're seeing here then is we're seeing, I think, like, potentially setting up for us to go against Penn State, or I guess we had
Penn State. I think we all took Boise on the points.
So, I mean, but do we see Penn State winning outright?
I mean, that's
the question.
Yeah. I mean, I do think Penn State will edge this one. I don't even love saying that, though. Like,
see, I'm not sure that I think Boise could win that outright.
Yeah.
Give me Boise the points for sure, but I think Boise can win that outright.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough
and
one.
I'll say the same thing about that game. If Penn State wins, it's close. If there's a blowout, it's Boise State that blows out Penn State. That's the way I feel about that game.
Wow. All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm torn on this one. I think I'm going to lean Penn State to win it. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be like Notre Dame. Yeah, it's going to be an ugly win, but I think they will win it. It's kind of my take. Their defense is a solid defense, but Ashton Gentry's going to get his stuff. Like, he's going to score. He's going to do his thing. Like, I don't doubt that. But and especially you saw Sanders last night not have the best game, or Travis Hunter and Sanders not play the best last night, and I think Gentry's going to be like, maybe I should have won the Heisman.
Yeah, we'll see.
Get him on the national stage, right?
Yeah.
I just think we want competitive games. I think that first round, we thought all these games were going to be good games, and then I don't want to say they were all duds, but they didn't go as we expected.
They weren't down to the wire.
They were good on paper and only on paper.
Yes, exactly.
So let's talk about it. Let's wrap this up with our Notre Dame predictions.
Yeah. All right.
Jordan, what do you got here? What do you Notre Dame, Georgia?
Notre Dame is 1.5 point dogs. Pun intended.
Correct, which flipped.
Yep.
So now, plus 1.5. I was looking at the point totals. Pretty much they're pretty close. But with all that said, what we talked about, I got Notre Dame 24-21.
All right. Hey, I like the confidence in the kicking game. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
we're just going to get one.
Yep.
I'm with you, but I'm even lower scoring. I like the Irish, but I'm going to go 17-14.
Wow.
I really feel like It's going to be a defensive game.
Yep.
I will not be surprised if there's not an offensive score and a defensive score by both teams. And I'm thinking that Jeter's going to get that big kick late. I'm not saying last second, but I'm saying under 3 minutes, he's going to hit a field goal to get us the lead, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think 17-14 is the final.
Well, let me split the difference here. I'm going 21-17 Irish. I think I'm not giving us the field goal kick. I'm giving Georgia the field goal kick, and 21-17 to the Irish. I think we're all expecting a barn burner. Bet the over. Bet 49-42. Yeah. Take your free money. We're all low. It'll be.
Yeah, we're definitely wrong if we're all low.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're all kind of close, so we'll be nowhere near. But yeah, it's gonna be a great game.
I wrote down a lot of this Vegas numbers, so I wanted to get your guys' quick thoughts on these. So Riley Leonard, over under 175 yards passing.
Under.
Give me the over.
Riley Leonard over and under 35 rushing yards.
Over.
Jeremiah Love over under 70 rushing yards.
I hate to say it.
Yeah,
under.
I think George is going to keep him under.
Price over under 28 rushing yards. That's a low number.
Over.
Yeah.
See, I think Price and Aeneas are going to have bigger games.
I won't be surprised if you see two backs in some formations.
I would not be either.
But yeah, I'd take the 28 over.
Right. The other side, looking at it, Gunnar Stockton, 175 yards passing.
Under.
Yeah.
And Trevor Etienne, 83 rushing yards.
I think he's over.
Yeah.
Because Georgia's
going to have to. They're going to.
Georgia's got a big offensive line. They're going to lean on him to win the game, and yeah, I think they're going to run the ball. I think we're going to see that south bended but don't break defense.
Yeah.
We're going to give up big chunk runs, but when we get inside the red zone, we're going to lock it down. So I think he'll go over.
Yeah, that's kind of on Riley Leonard's numbers. When I've been thinking about this game, I've been thinking for passing yards, he's got to be 200, and then rushing around 50. It's kind of my guess. So,
all right. So yeah, I'm excited. Jordan, I'm sorry you can't join us. This birthday thing. I guess your wife has plans for you.
Yes.
Hopefully you don't get roasted.
Yep.
That can be brutal. But yeah, Carter and I are flying out New Year's Day. So if all goes well, we're going to be on site and we're going to be at the game. So we're excited.
Can't wait.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
All right.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Irish 365 podcast.
You can find us wherever you get your podcast.
We are on YouTube, X, Instagram, and Facebook.
Just search for Irish 365 Pod.
And you can always reach us at our email, irish365pod@gmail.com.
Good night.
And God bless.